So, I made a video pretty recently talking about Terraria hot takes, and that if any of you had hot takes, leave a comment. And it's safe to say that you guys delivered quite a bit, and today I wanted to go over ones that I found interesting. Let's begin. Hot take. Fishing is a useful mechanic. You can catch a lot of valuable items and even skip some early progression tiers just from fishing in the ocean. This take I 100% agree with, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's a hot take, as there are quite a bit of fishing enjoyers out there that would defend the mechanic with their life. Honestly, fishing if you want to do it feels super rewarding, but that's, again, if you want to do it. And at least for me, my ADHD zoomer brain can't comprehend just sitting there at a body of water for more than 30 seconds, so I just never bother to. But I know it's definitely worth it, and I'm hoping that I can incorporate it into my gameplay, but very hot take. The music is not very good. Some boss tracks are alright, and there's a few good songs, but the majority of the songs are just meh. They are correct in saying that this is a very hot take, and I would disagree with it. With that being said, it also depends on what metric you'd say in which a song is good or bad, because for OSTs, I feel like Terraria's soundtrack would rank pretty high with stuff like Undertale or Doom. But again, it also is completely subjective, as those two games I just mentioned, their OSTs are so much more bop heavy than Terraria's. Regardless, the soundtrack fits the game so well that I just couldn't see it any other way. Like, I couldn't think of any other game soundtrack that could fit Terraria, you know what I mean? Fishron is harder than Empress. Empress's attacks are well telegraphed and easy to dodge, but Fishron's third phase just feels like you need to either cheese it or get lucky. This one is a valid take, and I can see how one could think that. However, I personally can't agree. Or maybe it's not that I don't agree, rather I think that a lot of bosses in Terraria are telegraphed fairly well, and there's also a lot of items in the game that help you with your shortcomings, like dodges, movement, defense, etc. In this comment, the person specifically targets the third phase of the Fishron fight and why it makes the fight harder than Empress. I find the third phase of the Duke Fishron fight more of like a stress test, if that makes sense, where it's just relying on you to not flub a relatively easy attack pattern. Sometimes he will hit you with some straight bullshit, but you know what I call that? A skill issue. Hot take. Calamity isn't just overrated. It's straight up a bad mod with very little redeeming qualities. Other mods have better bosses, music, sprites, and content in general. Out of all the hot takes on my last video, this is the one with the most replies, and I think that speaks for itself. I would partly agree with this one, but I wouldn't go as far to say that Calamity is a bad mod. Out of all the biggest Terraria mods, Calamity definitely isn't the worst, and it's the most popular for a good reason. With that being said, one thing about the Calamity mod that I don't like is that it amplifies an already big issue of Terraria, being that Terraria is innately a wiki game, and the amount of bloat Calamity adds shines a bright light on this issue a ton. Like, I could never imagine playing Calamity without at least a few quality of life mods like boss checklists or recipe browser. And you know, come to think of it, that would be a great challenge run. Complete Calamity mod without a wiki on my second monitor. I can't speak for the entirety of what the Calamity mod offers, as to be honest, I haven't played it enough, but one thing that it does the best is the music. Like, it's just like beautiful, man. Hot take. Hermes Boots early game is rarer than the dirtiest block. This one is silly, but I can't even lie, it's so base. You'll loot 5 chests, 3 golden chests, die to 7 bowlers, 1 trap chest before you find early game Hermes Boots. These have been some pretty great hot takes, but you know what isn't a hot take? Subscribing. Because according to YouTube, 99.6% of you guys aren't subscribed, so, you know, click that red button. Hot take. You can't say that journey mode is cheating if you play with a list of quality of life mods. Okay, I can understand where you're coming from, but I'm gonna take the middle ground and say neither is really cheating. And it kind of depends on how extreme your quality of life mods are. Since journey mode is an intended game mode, you can't really call it cheating, but in my humble opinion, it does take away a lot from Terraria's natural progression. Like, if you can beat the Moonlord in under 6 minutes, where should we draw the line? You know what I mean? As for quality of life mods, it really depends on what you're using. If you've got something that instantly builds houses, bridges, or elevators, yeah, that's definitely going to change the experience. But a little quality of life never hurts, and honestly, most of the popular quality of life mods just make Terraria smoother to play, and they're just awesome. The Destroyer is the hardest mech boss. This one is 4 years old, but I thought I'd share my opinion on it anyway. This one's a very subjective one, as from person to person, what mech boss is the hardest varies. But for me, I think the Destroyer is the easiest, and that's due to the fact that at the point in which you fight the mech bosses, pretty much everything pierces the worm segments very well, and with the right setup, you can melt the boss on every class. I personally think that Skeletron Prime is the hardest, but again, there is no wrong answer. And that concludes the video. As always, comment your hot take, and maybe I'll get to it. I don't know. And yes, for all those people that are waiting on the sequel to this video, I am working on it, so don't you worry.